Hello, and today we'll be talking about China. So, yeah. Anyway, China has long been proud and historical country that has sadly been overtaken by a totalitarian dictatorship. Well, not necessarily a dictatorship, but a totalitarian government that keeps oppressing people. Anyway, but a long time ago, well, actually not that long ago, just about like 100 years to 100 years to 150, China was still feudal and imperial. And throughout the 19th century, China was exploited and divvied up by the foreign powers. There were 92 treaty ports by 1917 where foreign countries could control, mainly, for example, the Brits and the French, especially the Brits, they controlled Canton. The exploitation by foreign powers undermined the rule of the Qing dynasty, which had ruled for over 2,000 years. Well, not the Qing dynasty, but like the dynasties in general. The Qing dynasty had only ruled since 1744 and until 1911. So yeah, it also encouraged nationalist movements. So for example, Dr. Sun Yat-sen's Revolutionary Alliance established in 1905. Now if you look at the title of this video, it says Causes of the Chinese Civil War. Now China has long been a chaotic place, and there were two main civil wars. There was the first civil war in the 20s and 30s, followed by a pause with the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II, and there was the second part of the civil war in which the communists managed to win, and the KMT they just tilted so hard and they just died. So hey, Dr. Sun Yat-sen, father of democracy in China and stuff. Well, the Chinese wanted to reform China the same way the West had reformed, and were frustrated by the Chinese government's opposition to reform. Given that the imperial government still wanted to maintain a monarchy, yeah, there's not going to be reform likely. So the imperial government introduced reforms that didn't do anything, and China's population grew, so the peasants were increasingly suffering, and the rural rich and the middle class just owned a lot of the land, but they were very little and they had all the money. So furthermore, tax evasion by the rich meant a growing tax burden on the poor, and the peasant poverty managed to raise like the sense of rebellion and revolution. And of course, from the mid-19th century onwards, the imperial government in Beijing found it increasingly difficult to control the provinces because of imperial overstretch, in which you send ministers to like control and just governors to control the states. But then they somehow end up making it an autonomous state, and then things happen. So the first revolution, which is important for us, is 1911 revolution. We call it the Shanghai Revolution because it basically started there and it ended the imperial government. It was a revolt against the government, as it says in the notes here, and Sun Yat-sen's Revolutionary Alliance was not strong enough to take over China, unfortunately. It had proclaimed a republic in Nanjing. See the difference here? Beijing is the capital for, as we know, China from, but a long time ago it used to be Nanking or Nanjing. Beijing literally means northern capital, and Nanjing means southern capital. So yeah. Anyway, Sun Yat-sen had to broker a deal with Yuan Shikai, who was a general who became president in 1912. He gave Yuan Shikai the presidency of the Republic of China in 1912, but then he died after trying to restore the monarchy. Anyway, during the warlord era, which is the era after the revolution in the 20s, the Beijing government never controlled more of a fraction of China, as 8 regional warlords ran different areas of the country. Think of the American mafia and the Italian mafia. They control sections of land and run it their own way, and they listen to no central authority apart from the big guy. Well, there's no big guys. Basically, it's a very divided era in China. And one very influential event during the warlord era was the demonstration of nationalism called the May 4th movement of 1919. I talked about this previously in the League of Nations and interwar videos, in which the Chinese were pissed that the West just basically brushed China aside despite fighting on their side, and the Western powers decided to award Japan Germany's former concessions like Shandong and Qingdao. So of course the Chinese were very pissed, because basically further cemented the idea that to the West the Chinese were nothing more than second-rate citizens. So Chinese nationalism was on the rise. And until 1926, the GMD or the KMT, they're just different writings and different pronunciations. The Kuomintang, the Kuomintang, let's call them the K, let's call them the Nationalists. Until 1926, the Nationalists, whose support was located in southern China, aka Nanking, southern capital, were not strong enough to make a bid for control of China. Unfortunately, Sun Yat-sen died in 25, so after that, things went downhill. But before that, the Nationalists formed alliance with the small but fledgling but rising Chinese Communist Party set up in 1921, called the FUF, the First United Front. The Russian international organization, the Comintern, helped to arrange this agreement to broker a peace between the two sides and just work together to kind of unite China. And as I've said, there were two periods of civil war, 27 to 37, and there was 46 to, no, not 39, typo, sorry, 36 to 39, because there was a 46 to 49, because there was a hiatus due to the Sino-Japanese War. Sorry, there was a typo there. And Chiang Kai-shek became the leader of the nationalists in this period, and he was worried by growing support for the CCP as they were rising very quickly. So he decided to he decided to just kind of crack down on them. So the CCP challenged the interest groups who were the main nationalist supporters, and they were committed to land reform and a Marxist revolution. First, they centered on the proletariat, the industrials, and then they later on went to the peasants. So Chiang decided to crack down and then do the White Terror, which is basically massacring CCP members in Shanghai and southern cities. This, unfortunately, had the effect of driving nationalist support away and driving people towards the CCP because they were victims. Ideological divide played a crucial role in bringing about the war, as you have the nationalists who want to maintain control and all that stuff, and the CCP who wanted to genuinely improve the lives of the people against the authoritarian rule of the nationalists. They fought over who was going to unify China and solve its problems according to respective ideology. A brief mention here is that in 1927, Chiang led the Northern Expedition to kind of unite all of China and just basically pacify the warlords and all that or defeat the warlords. He led the Northern Expedition, which kind of united China. It did unite China territorially, but in terms of mindset, people were still pretty much divided. If we now moving back to the present, the failure of the US to secure peace in China in 1946 meant that a proper civil war broke out. So basically, it's full on. Now that the Japs are defeated, it's time for a showdown between the nationalists and the communists. So the country was heavily divided because they both wanted to secure land in support of the people. And as the Cold War emerged in Europe, the US tried to stop a communist victory because they against communism, but then Marshall intervened to promote a coalition, and then things went to hell, and then both parties agreed, but then suddenly Mao, being the cunning guy he is, he managed to emerge the leader of the CCP after the Long March in 34. He is a guy that once said that he needs to have permanent revolution, so he refused to back down in the peace agreement, and he legit pushed forward. And then civil war had broken out again as troops clashed in Manchuria, and as we know from history, the communists won. So this has been the introduction to the Chinese Civil War. So yeah, this period was pretty heavily divided by China. Thank God we in Hong Kong were still under British rule, so yeah, we weren't as heavily chopped up, and we were pretty much safe-ish. But then the refugees poured in during the Civil War. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!